Halloween is one of my favorite times of the year due to how everything changes around us. Things get a little eerie, but night takes on an entirely different feeling than it does during the summer or the winter. As a kid, when I went trick-or-treating, I felt like I was able to take on a different persona and explore a fantasy world that had loose ties to our own. It was an odd mix of excitement and fear, and these two feelings balance each other out perfectly. In the realm of games though, I could explore this feeling anytime I wanted. While there are several areas in games I'd love to touch on this aspect, there is one in particular that captures this perfectly, and that was Mad Monster Mansion in Banjo-Kazooie. Mad Monster Mansion is a level you encounter later on in Banjo-Kazooie that contains all sorts of neat areas. It features a large mansion, a church, a shack, a hedge maze, a well, and all sorts of other interesting things. While all these areas are separate, they all feel close and relevant to one another. My favorite building was the mansion, and I always wondered why the outside of the mansion never really matched up with the interior. The church in this level is similar as well, as the exterior of the church is way smaller than the interior. While this is a common thing in video games and in Banjo-Kazooie, the objects themselves in these areas appear to be made for giants. It provides an interesting contrast in the level because on one hand, you have extremely large objects, and on the other, you transform into a pumpkin to explore the tiniest of places. It made me wonder what this mansion was actually built for, and why its entrance was so small in comparison to what was inside. Another interesting point is that none of the rooms within this mansion have doors. The windows weren't designed to be opened either, as there are no hinges on the inside at all. Even the bathroom is sealed, which is really odd. To me, this means that the mansion was always just inhabited by ghosts whom don't need doors to travel throughout it. However, even with that in place, it is still odd to me that all these items in the mansion vary in size and don't match up. They also installed a front door despite needing one. I wonder why this is. It's apparent that Gruntilda has a strong presence here, as you can see her image in similar paintings scattered throughout the rooms. One of the ghosts who guards the Jiggy that is normally on the table mentions her name as well, so it makes me wonder if this is a place she visits often. Going back to those small rooms I mentioned before, these were areas I absolutely loved. In games, I often sought out a home and pretended as if this is where my character lived. It was something I did for fun once I was done finishing the game. This could be a multitude of places, from the secret snow cave in Bomberman 64 to the small guard gate in Ocarina of Time. I acted as if I lived in this small area, as if it were my house. Banjo-Kazooie was no different, and the rooms of this mansion were where I made my home. I often sought out solitude in these locations, so these areas were perfect. I also did the same thing with the small building outside the level, that you need the pumpkin for to gain access. This area outside the level was always cool to me because I wonder why it existed in general, and where it actually was within the world of Banjo-Kazooie. Was it simply on the side of Gruntilda's lair, or did we actually traverse somewhere else? The tower is nowhere in sight, and is perpetually night. While I spent most of my time near the mansion in this level, the hedge maze and the church area were pretty cool as well. For those of you who have watched my Gex 3 video on Clueless in Seattle, you probably already know I love hedge mazes. While I think Gex 3's maze seemed more daunting due to the low camera angle, Banjo-Kazooie's was still pretty cool. On top of that, the graveyard it led to was pretty memorable to me as well. I was sort of the creepy kid who liked checking out graveyards. The sense of history in the area was really neat to me, and I often try to seek out the oldest graves there. There was something peaceful about places like that. And I know some of you may think that is weird, but I know there's an equal amount of you watching who would agree with me. Mad Monster Mansion was interesting because it was spooky, but in a kid-friendly kind of way. What I loved most about it was the sense of atmosphere this level portrayed. It almost felt like you stumbled upon a small village of sorts, since there was a church, a shed, and a large mansion in the middle. This is why, when I think of the feeling of trick-or-treating or Halloween in video games, my mind instantly goes to this place. Besides being an eerie mansion, it also felt safe. Now, that may sound weird since there are bats and skeletons and all sorts of critters trying to kill you, but due to how everything is lit up and the cartoonish nature of it all, it mirrors what I felt on Halloween exactly. Even though sometimes the dark was scary on Halloween, Most of the time, this darkness and obscure lighting made the world so darn cool. I could explore to my heart's content, even if my parents were following close behind. That's the feeling I'm talking about, and this level captured this Halloween feeling perfectly. Overall, this dark and dreary building will always have a dear place in my heart. And because of that, Mad Monster Mansion will always be one of my pixel portals. But now that I've shared that with all of you, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts. What areas in video games do you think of immediately when you ponder about Halloween? Did you often claim turf in video games and call it your home? And last, what was your favorite level from Banjo-Kazooie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, thanks for tuning in to my midnight tour through the darkness. If you'd like to join me on my YouTube voyage and explore some more really cool haunted areas, then the subscribe button is just what you're looking for. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers. You've made it to the end of the video, but wait, your quest isn't over yet. If you're looking for some more spooky content, why not check out these other Pixel Portal videos? On the left, you'll find my video about the Shadow Temple from Ocarina of Time. In that video, I talk about the lore behind the temple, my personal experiences with it, and what places it reminds me of in our world. On the right, you can join me on my quest as we head on down through Pumpkin Hill from Sonic Adventure 2. There's some pretty neat comparisons in that video as well. And I talk about this really neat landmark in our world and how it parallels to Pumpkin Hill's Church Mountain. There's also a slew of other videos on my channel too, so regardless, I hope you enjoy.